Mrs. Kate at the Library of Whispers. Today we're going to take a first look at this lovely book, the official illustrated movie companion for Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So this book is by Jude Fisher. It starts off with an introduction by Viggo Mortensen, who of course played Aragorn. So here is a map of Rohan and Gondor. You can see Gondor here and Rohan. So this little section is called The Sundering of the Fellowship. The Hobbit, Frodo Baggins, young nephew of Bilbo Baggins, has inherited a perilous quest. He must prevent the One Ring, an ancient artifact charged with great and sinister power, from returning to its master, the Dark Lord Sauron, by carrying it south and eastwards into Mordor, the Land of Shadow, and there destroy it in the cracks of doom, the volcano where it first was made. The ring, however, has a dark sentience. It wishes always to return to the one who forged it and imbued it with his life force and his malice, and Sauron's lidless eye ever seeks the ring. His hordes of orcs and other monsters roam freely across Middle-earth, bringing annihilation and shadow into the realms of men, dwarves and elves. From his home in the peaceful stony slopes of the Emyn Muil, they will eventually spy him, spidering around the cracks in search of the ring. It is hard to believe to look at this pale, skinny creature with his long, clinging fingers and toes, and his gleaming, bulbous eyes, that once he was a creature not unlike a hobbit. His name then was certain hobbits bearing a rare and powerful artifact and bringing both safely to Isengard, but knowing neither the identity of the hobbit in question, nor the nature of the thing the wizard covets, they mistakenly believe Merry or Pippin is the hobbit they seek. Saruman's Uruk-hai have been bred for power, speed and brutality. Great swart, massive muscled, slant-eyed beasts, they were birthed in the caves beneath the fortress at Isengard, tormented in order to forge their cruel spirits and fed upon unspeakable things. They bear upon them Saruman's mark, a white hand painted on their shields and faces. Tireless and determined, they can run through the day as well as the night, unlike other orcs which dislike feeling the sun's eye upon them and prefer to move in darkness. Their leader, now that the Master's greatest creation, Lurtz, lies dead at Aragorn's hand, is Ugluk. Because of their small size, the hobbits are easy to carry, so the Uruk-hai make swift progress towards their goal. Fangorn Forest. At the southern end of the Misty Mountains, there lies a wild and ancient woodland, the remnant of the vast woods that once covered all of this part of the land in the elder days. Inside, it may appear dark and forbidding to strangers, full of shadows and strange shapes. Trees stand rank upon rank in every direction, some tall and slender and straight, their lithe limbs reaching for the light, while others are gnarled and bent by age, their bark all ridged and scored. Many are clothed in lichen, as if with great beards and whiskers. Others are covered in dry brown leaves and have long-fingered twigs like hands that may clutch, and sometimes out of the corner of the eye it may appear that they have moved, not as trees move, with the passing of the wind, but of their own accord. It is an eerie place to travellers who do not know it well, and can be dangerous to those who are not kind to trees. It is not wise to cut live wood to make a campfire in Fangorn Forest. In the south, smoke rises from the factories of Isengard. There, the great forest has been cut down in swathes. Hewn tree stumps mark its ravaged slopes. The wizard Saruman, chief of the Order of the Istari, who came to Middle-earth to aid the free peoples, has been corrupted by his quest for knowledge and power, so that now he thinks to challenge the Dark Lord himself. Driven at first by Sauron's command and lately by his own ambition, he has been systematically destroying the woods master of Isengard. The White Wizard is cunning. Saruman the White, foremost of the Istari wizards who came to Middle-earth to guide all the free peoples against the growing evil of Sauron, Lord of Mordor, has himself developed a great appetite for power in this world. For long years he has studied the ways of the Dark Lord, seeking out arcane knowledge from ancient texts, acquiring magical lore and craft, readying himself to make his move. His stronghold at Isengard, long ago acquired by the wizard as part of his grand scheme, stands in a crucial strategic location, guarding the Gap of Rohan, between the White Mountains and the Misty Mountains, and what was once a fortress built to ensure the safety of the kingdom of Rohan has now become a base from which enemies will issue out to engulf it. But in the caverns beneath his stronghold, Saruman has created an army of Uruk-hai, orcs bred with goblin men, to make them powerful, cruel, and tireless. He has marked them with his own device, that of the White Hand, and these creatures roam freely throughout the lands, surrounding Isengard, killing at will. Having learned from Gandalf the Grey the whereabouts of the One Ring, Saruman is determined to acquire it and use it for his own purposes. He sent an elite hand of his Uruk-hai warriors to capture Frodo Baggins, the Hobbit Ring-bearer, but when the Uruks set upon the Fellowship beneath Amon-Hen, Frodo escaped them, and it was Merry and Pippin who were taken captive. Foiled in this venture, he will launch his monstrous army of Uruk-hai, wild men, orcs and wargs upon the kingdom of Rohan. The country has weakened from within by the use of his spy and weapon, Grima Wormtongue, who has poisoned the mind of King Theoden, rendering him incapable of action and decision. And in this photograph we can see the Palantir. The Palantiri are the 8 legendary seeing stones, crystal globes made by the elves, which could enable a person of strong will to view scenes far away in time and space, especially